Welcome back to the Better Lives podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca, Senior Manager of Community Engagement, and I am so excited to be here today. We are joined by the team from Dial-A-Bus, a nonprofit transportation service based in Benton County that provides essential rides for seniors, people with disabilities, and underserved children and families. At Central Willamette, we're proud to support Dial-A-Bus, a team making it possible for people to stay mobile and engaged in their community. We're joined today by Steve Harder, Executive Director, and Emma Heim, Social Media Coordinator. And thank you both so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. First off, I guess we just want to kind of jump right into it. And for those of us who don't know much about it or haven't heard anything about it, what is Dial-A-Bus?
Dial-A-Bus actually was founded in 1975, 50 years ago from this year, by a bunch of concerned citizens who worked or attended the Benton County Senior Center in Corvallis. And at that time, in the mid-'70s, that's where the senior meals program was. And those people became aware that some of their friends who they saw every day weren't able to make it every day. And they became concerned about them because they were sick, or maybe they couldn't drive anymore, their car wasn't working. So they started to go pick those people up, just sort of ad hoc. From time to time, they would realize that so-and-so wasn't there today. They hadn't seen them, so they'd call and then drive out to get them. Well, pretty soon that need sort of exploded, as you would imagine it would. And so they started to get organized, and they had a big chalkboard. And they would write everyone's name on the chalkboard, and people would sign up and say, okay, I'll go get Mildred, I'll go get this person and that person, and they would drive out to do it. That exponentially grew. They became more organized. They eventually became an entity unto themselves, and they just sort of randomly called themselves Dial-A-Bus because people started calling in and saying, hey, can somebody please come get me today? I want to avail myself of the meals program and the other activities at the senior center. And that was the genesis of Dial-A-Bus. That's how it all started. After about 15 years of that, it became an actually funded part of county services. The offices were right in the senior center. They had, I believe, 2 staff to start with. Both of them were just in charge of organizing the people to go out and get rides and make sure everyone was served. 10 years after that, it became a private nonprofit and grew from there to the point where we exist today, where we have about 40 vehicles, 60 employees, another 15 volunteers, and we're funded both through the county and through local school districts to serve multiple populations.
So you said, I'm sorry, one more time, what county did it start in?
Benton.
Benton. And so it wasn't modeled off a different thing. It actually just came
Grassroots.
Out of did it expand into different areas? Because I mean, I thought I've heard of Dial-A-Bus in other areas. I might have been thinking of something different. Are other people modeling off of you guys then and what you guys provided?
So that's a complicated question. If a municipality has a public bus system, now ADA laws require that they provide service to people who are unable, because of their disability, to use that bus system. So Albany, for instance, in Lynn County has its own bus system, and they have something called, confusingly, Dial-A-Ride. And Dial-A-Ride in Lynn County operates only in the city limits of Albany. That's what's required by the ADA laws. If there's a bus system, there needs to be an ADA alternative for it. Benton County, however, the county commissioners made a commitment a long time ago that they want to serve all the people who need transportation throughout the entire county. And that's easier to do in Benton County because it's geographically a smaller county than Lynn or Lane or Polk or Yamhill or any of the surrounding counties. But Dial-A-Bus serves the entire county of Benton. We go all the way out down to Monroe and out to Alpine and all these outlying towns where there are senior and disabled people who need service. Those people, as you can imagine, need that service even more so than people who live within the city limits, just because they're farther away. They're less likely to have family and friends nearby who can help them when they need to. So we're very proud that we're able to serve all of the people throughout the entire county. Yeah.
So dial a ride, that's probably what I saw and probably confused you a little bit with that.
Yeah,
so.
there's many iterations, and we get calls for dial a ride and dial a car and dial a this and that all the time. That's the
Just
common
dial.
thing we go through. Yeah,
Just dial for transportation.
Right.
Well, I think that really kind of leads us into this next part of really talking about why this work matters so much. And, for a lot of us who may take our transportation for granted, what do you see, both of you, what do you see as kind of the main reasons why Dial-A-Bus is so important in our communities?
Well, there's a lot of different reasons. Economically, it's that reason is kind of self-evident. Having more people be able to avail themselves of local business, local services, is obviously better for the economy. It's better for those people that they're able to access the services and the consumer things that they need. They're very. We know now that there are also very serious and concerning health concerns for seniors and disabled people who are isolated and experience isolation on a ongoing basis. There's really hard data on this now. I think anecdotally, all of us have known an older person or a disabled person who wasn't able to participate fully in communities,
Yes.
and how that was detrimental to them, to their mental health. And now we know that it's very detrimental to their physical health as well. The hard data is pretty concerning. 29%, you're more likely to experience heart disease. You're 29% more likely to experience heart disease if you're an isolated person who doesn't have social contact. You're 32% more likely to have a stroke if you're isolated and do not have social contact with people. Those are really concerning statistics. And again, there's chemistry that backs that up. That's just not anecdotal or something that we think happens. We now know the chemistry behind that, and the cortisol hormone. That's a stress hormone that these people have. They consistently test higher for those hormones that depress the immune system and cause all kinds of health problems. And we also have data on the other side of those things. Older and disabled people who do not have that social isolation experience those health concerns at just a much, much lower rate. And the health concerns are prevalent, concerning, need to be addressed, and should be worrisome to everyone, right? The other concerns, the social concerns, and what those people bring to communities, I believe is also extremely valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, having those generational experiences
Yes. brought
into whatever those people are doing, their volunteer activities, what they do when they're shopping, what they do when they're a lot of the folks that we drive around we're driving to employment opportunities. They work at thrift stores or at the Walmart or wherever they work, and when they bring their experiences into those settings, it's valuable for everyone. It's extremely important context for our generation to have. That comes out to us in very specific ways when we're in the cars with these people, when we're driving them around, and we ask them about their life history and what they've experienced and how they got to Oregon, or what they did during World War II, or
Wow.
how their families emigrated to the United States. Those stories we talk about those stories in the office endlessly. And we talk about them with reverence and respect, because they're always stories that are very profound. And having that experience and that life knowledge in our office, in our communities, I think is invaluable. And so supporting these people, making sure that they don't experience those detrimental health effects is, I believe it's a responsibility. It's not just something that we do because we think it's good. I believe it's socially profound and necessary.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, we're social creatures. I mean, mind, body, and soul, but it's a two-way street. I didn't even consider that. I was mostly thinking, like, it's so important to get these people for their well-being, but also
Yeah.
they do have stories to share. So
So
when they're
much.
going to work, going to whatever event they're trying to do, they're sharing with the people there. So that kind of brings me to the next question: is like, who can benefit from this? Like, it's not just elderly people. Like, how do you qualify to be Dial-A-Bus? Because normally when I think of this, I think of just medical appointments and stuff like that. That's the first thought for me anyway. But what other things do you guys provide services for besides just taking them to medical appointments?
So we're lucky in Benton County because, again, the commissioners have made a commitment to providing as much service as we can possibly provide to this segment of the population. So the answer is there's nothing that you cannot schedule a ride for. In
Oh, wow.
fact,
That's cool.
we've scheduled rides for things like driving a bunch of folks around to look at Christmas lights.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, we've driven people around. I drove one woman around. She was a longtime client, and I took her out bird watching one time, and that was really neat. I drove her down to the Finley Wildlife Refuge, and,
wow.
and we met up with a couple of the rangers who worked there, who were biologists and big birders themselves, and we drove around and identified all kinds of different birds. And it was, and this woman was elderly and had Parkinson's disease, and she couldn't even walk around. So we took one of our new vans with the big windows, and we drove around and looked at birds for 3 or 4 hours
That's
until
really cool.
until she was exhausted. So we do lots of things like that.
And do you have to like get them pre-approved, or like what do you have to do to get those? I mean, it sounds like obviously they can do whatever they need to, but how do they go about getting scheduled, I guess?
Yeah. So the county, Benton County itself, controls who and who does not qualify for services. Basically, if you're disabled, you qualify. If you're older than the age of 65, you qualify. We, however, kind of scared to say this out loud, but I'm going to say it anyway. We, however, are much more lenient than that. If a person, if we believe that someone qualifies, or if they just make a good case for the fact that they really can't drive anymore,
Yeah.
My kids took my keys away, I really can't drive anymore, that's good enough for us. We're going to go get that person, and we're going to avail them of whatever rides they need.
That's awesome. So it's like you do have your rules and regulations and stuff, but they give you the flexibility to go outside of that. Because I know with a lot of government stuff, and like when you have money going, especially with charities, you have to allocate it that way. But having that flexibility, that's pretty awesome.
That's the beauty of being a private nonprofit.
Yes.
Is we are independent to some extent, and we use riders' donations. I also write grants. Emma helps me so much with that. That we have enough revenue so that we're able to purchase our own vehicles, privately
Amazing.
owned vehicles. So we can go beyond what the county's strictures are and kind of make our own limits and make sure that we're providing service to the people who we know in our hearts need that service. And that's an easy rubric, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's an easy standard to find. I mean, you talk to the person, you meet the person, that person needs service. That's
Absolutely.
yeah, and it feels much better than following rules, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that feels right.
And that's how we're able to work with other nonprofits and schools and everything as well to help children and a lot more people.
So when you work with schools and the children aspect of it, is it mostly the children with disabilities, or like how does that work? Is it you guys expand a little bit more on that, or like a little more leeway with the when you're partnering with schools?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because now we're touching on what has actually become about 60% of our service.
Wow.
It's even greater than the service that we provide for elderly and disabled folks. So the kids who qualify for our service are qualified through the schools. And the schools, the criteria they use is, does that child have difficulty making it to school? Is transportation a barrier to their education, period? And if it is, they qualify for Dial-A-Bus. Many times, however, those kids qualify under what's called the McKinney-Vento Act. That was passed in 1987, and that was an act. It was a federal act, and it was passed to provide transportation specifically for kids who have been taken out of their homes, always for bad and tragic reasons, and are living somewhere else, either with a foster parent or a relative outside of their school district, or kids who are experiencing homelessness. And those kids, they don't just go to school to get educated. That's where they get fed.
Yes.
That's where they get medical care. And most importantly, for those kids, most of the time, school is the most stable thing in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So local school districts, and we work with 5 or 6 local school districts, so it's not just the main school district in Corvallis, have made a commitment to making sure that those kids who are highest need and really need to be at school more so than the average kid, and again, not just for education, for all the support they need in life to be healthy, active children in our community, they make sure that they get to school. And we've had kids who their home school is in Corvallis, and they live in Salem, an hour and a half away. We drive up and get those kids, drive them back to school, drive them home in the afternoon. We also make sure that those kids are able to avail themselves of extracurricular activities. Sometimes that means we have a driver waiting at the school at 9 o'clock because a kid is getting home from their away swim meet that was at some other school. But the schools, and I'm very grateful for this, have made a commitment to make sure that those kids are availed of the same opportunities in their educational experience as every other kid. And that has become very important to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't ever have trouble finding drivers who are willing to stay to school waiting for a bus to show up at 9 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Our drivers argue over who's going to go and pick up that kid because they know that kid and they want to hear about the swim meet and they want to hear about the track meet.
That's amazing.
And they talk to them and they stop at Taco Bell on the way
Of
home,
course.
make sure the
You
kids
must.
get fed.
Do that, yeah.
I get so mad at them for this. I try to get them to not spend their own money on these kids' dinners. They always do. They insist on it. They ignore me. It's like I'm not really in charge of anything.
I think, I think something that we're really learning today is that Dial-A-Bus is not just a ride. I think that almost the ride itself is like the smallest piece of all of the gaps that you guys are filling. And it goes back to that, like, the social piece, like being able to be connected, being afforded those opportunities that you might not be able to because you don't have transportation. And that's true equity. And I think that that's also like truly community coming together and supporting one another. I think that that is kind of a really profound thing about your program that I just want to be sure that we touch upon is the ride is almost just the tip of the iceberg of all the pieces of somebody's life that you get to impact.
Yeah. The other place that's illustrated is through our volunteers. So we've had many volunteers who have been with us for more than a decade. We've had many volunteers who have been with us for more than 2 decades.
Wow.
We have one volunteer who was with us for 32 years, and he only retired. His name was Jim Landkamer. He should be famous. He's so famous that we named a scholarship and a bus after him.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Jim's Bus.
Next podcast.
Yeah. He's a special person. He volunteered at Dial-A-Bus longer than he worked, and he was a computer engineer.
Wow.
He worked for 30 years, retired, found Dial-A-Bus, stayed for 32 years. He only stopped driving because it was time for him to become a Dial-A-Bus client instead of a driver.
Wow.
So when he was 92 years old,
wow.
he retired from driving, flipped right over seamlessly to become a Dial-A-Bus client. We still drive him around. We make sure that he makes it to all our appreciation events and our holiday events. He's Dial-A-Bus royalty for sure. He will tell you, in fact, Emma has him on film explaining why he volunteered for so long, and he says exactly what you just said, which was he does it for his own benefit. The social contact and the relationships that he made over the years are extremely important to him. And really, for him, his main source of social contact. And Jim is a special person, and the value of a ride to him and to the people he served goes far beyond
Absolutely.
getting in a car and going to the store.
Yeah, they say if you love what you do for work, you'll never have to work another day in your life. But that goes for volunteering as well. I mean, I think it's important to get back to the community and do things. So, but obviously that takes time. But if you can find something you just enjoy and going, technically just hanging out with friends and giving them rides, going bird watching or taking kids to school. I mean, that's just, you can't blame someone for loving doing that.
Absolutely. And I think we're also highlighting here really the importance of partnerships and community when it comes to Dial-A-Bus and the success of Dial-A-Bus. It seems that, you know, it really is a community effort to make this run the way that it needs to, and to be able to meet your folks' needs in our community. And so I'm interested just to hear a little bit more just about partnerships in general, and why are partnerships so important to Dial-A-Bus and the success of your organization and your clients?
And also how Central Willamette might have helped you guys out with our partnership as well.
Yeah, partnering with other people in the community is wonderful. We partner with people in so many different ways. We've got other nonprofit partners who we help with transportation, like Old Mill Center. We have partners like Central Willamette who help us to get the word out, and that is about the word out for people who might need rides, people who might want to support us, people who might want to volunteer.
Absolutely.
And just having all of these people in the community working together toward one thing is just amazing.
Absolutely. And what do you wish more people understood about the connection between transportation and opportunity? I think that we kind of touched on this with your examples of students, but really that link between why this service is so important for folks to be able to access opportunities in our communities.
Well, I'll just give you an example of one community partner we have. There's a fitness place that's maybe 2 miles away, and I think Ron, who was here, may have talked about this. It's called Fitness Over 50, and obviously it's a gym for people who are over 50 years old. Their clientele tends to be people who are over 70 years old. We are driving people back and forth to that place all day, every day. The owner of that establishment, I've become friends with him over the years. He's a very good guy. He knows that Dial-A-Bus is intrinsic to the success of his business. Smart guy, nice guy, he's got a great heart. In fact, his father-in-law volunteered for us for 15 years. So we're connected to that business, that local business, in many ways. I think it's very easy to argue that business is extremely important to the health and welfare of the local elderly population.
Absolutely.
So their goals are the same as our goals. That gentleman supports us through donations every single year and is happy to do so. We barely have to ask. He knows what he gets. He likes to provide service to elderly and disabled folks. That's his mission. That's our mission. So he makes sure that he shows his appreciation in a very tangible way by donating. And excuse me, we recently just because of where they're located, parking is a problem in their at their gym. And we recently just started running a shuttle back and forth from our parking lot because we're so close to his parking lot. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so when the parking lot fills up, so people don't have to park along the busy street, they just park in our parking lot. We run a van out, drive them down to Fitness Over 50.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's an easy thing to do, right? I mean, that's an
Yes.
easy thing to do. However, it's kind of rare. Doesn't happen all that often.
That's right.
Yeah, but the relationships that we build in the community are important to us. People appreciate them. The other place, and this is actually kind of funny, that we get regular donations from are the local hairdressers in town.
I love that. Yeah. I already see the connection.
Right. we have so many elderly women who their main source of social contact is with the people who they sit with every day, and those women, when their ride doesn't work out right and they have to get to the hairdresser an hour before their appointment, not a problem. They love sitting there for an hour. They chat with the other ladies. They have a great time. It's so much more a social event than it is have anything to do with getting your hair done. And that's fine for everyone. Everyone likes it. The hairdressers like it. They support it. They donate to us. They make it really easy for us to get our people there and back. They call when they're done. There's a lot of really special relationships with local business, and other people have really just organically spring up when we provide this service.
Yeah, just building community and maintaining those relationships. That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of brings us to our next section here. For those who want to support Dial a Bus, whether that be by volunteering, donations, we are very interested to know, especially in our rural areas, what are some of those challenges that you guys are seeing on the grounds for folks that might live in rural areas and kind of access to transportation?
The main challenge is that our county funding is finite. And because of that, we can only put so many drivers on the road so frequently. And of course, it's more efficient to drive 2 or 3 people who live in the same area at once, right? We can go to a neighborhood, pick up 2 or 3 people, take them to their appointments, then pick them up also in small groups to bring them home. Because of the way demographics work in Benton County, 85% of the people live in Corvallis. Mm-hmm. The other 15% live spread out throughout the county in these much smaller communities: Monroe, Alsea, Alpine, Blodgett. And so for those people, scheduling rides means that 2 or 3 other people who live in town don't get rides, because it takes 3 times as long to go get those people than it does to get somebody in town. We, however, are committed to changing that. We recently, and again, Emma has a great deal to do with this because she's managed to leverage quite a bit of funding through donations and grant writing. That we're now able to privately fund a lot of those rides.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and we actually just started last week, just coincidentally, and that's mostly because when summer hit, we have a lot of extra hours with drivers. Now those drivers who are no longer driving school kids all over the place are available to do these longer rides. So we're currently privately funding rides for people who live in these outlying areas much more frequently than we're able to during the school year, and not asking the county for any more money to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're really proud of that. And again, this is kind of the beauty of being a private nonprofit. When we are profitable, we just put that money directly back into the program and provide more service for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nobody's getting rich at Dial a Bus. We take that money and we put it right back into programs and serve more people more frequently.
And it's so important in rural areas because of the limitations out there. A lot of times, the what is it called? The more affordable housing. That's what it's called. Affordable housing is oftentimes built in more rural areas, and it leaves people with less opportunities for employment. And there are big areas where there's 35% of the people living there are living under the poverty line. Yeah. So it's important that we,
with less services, less access to resources as well. So I think I would almost say in some ways you guys really kind of provide a lifeline for a lot of people that might just really be isolated otherwise. And I think, going into, before we wrap up, how can our listeners support this work, and what's next for Dial a Bus?
We have on our website, dialabus.org, a place where people can donate. You don't have to leave the page. You donate right there on our website. You can donate with a credit card any way you want. And we obviously are always looking for volunteers. You can sign up on our website as well.
What's the criteria for volunteering?
You have to be 25 years of age.
And have a valid driver's license.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be like any specific type of license, just a regular valid driver's license or standard driver's
Yeah,
license.
they won't be driving any of our big vehicles, so it's just a regular driver's license.
Cool.
And we provide training for those folks. They drive using our insurance. There are no expenses associated with being a volunteer. You drive our vehicles using our fuel under our insurance. You just show up and serve the community.
That's awesome.
You pick your own hours. You can drive as much or as little as you want. So, and another way that you can support us, if you don't have a lot of funds or you don't have a lot of time, we use a program called ShopRaise. And with ShopRaise, over 2,000 retailers came together to provide funds for nonprofits. And they provide up to 10% cash back when you make purchases at those retailers online. So all you have to do is sign up with ShopRaise. It's completely free. You can do it for just everyday shopping, whether you're buying furniture, clothes, food. You can do all of that, and you can find out more about how to sign up again on our website at dialabus.org.
So when you're shopping for those specific retailers, you shop there, and whatever percentage they'll give to your charity of your choice, or Dial-A-Bus just happens to be one of the charities on there. Then
you can sign up. The link, it's a more complicated link than dialabus.org, so I'm not going to give that one.
No worries.
But it is listed on our website under the donation under the donation page. And so if you just follow that link, it takes you directly to the Dial-A-Bus nonprofit page with ShopRaise.
That's such a fantastic approach as well, because again, people want to, but times are hard right now, so there's not a lot of extra cash sometimes, and obviously when you're trying to get more cash, it means you're working more. So people still want to give, and that's if it's just something you're doing already, that passive giving is so valuable.
Yes.
And that's kind of one of the things with Central Willamette in most credit unions is it's about the community. So when you bank and you do financial services with a credit union, portion of that goes towards this. So just by holding your checking account with the credit union, using a credit card, portions of those proceeds go to services such as Dial-A-Bus. That's how we're able to give back to the community by just, again, by doing your normal thing, normal business. You're not giving anything extra, but just a tiny portion of that goes towards these services.
Absolutely.
But a tiny portion among 35,000 people is going to be a big impact.
It
And
adds
that's
up.
why we're able to do these type of things.
Absolutely.
So I love that extra feature you guys offer.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much to our guests for sharing their stories today. If you're inspired by what you heard today, we encourage you to learn more about Dial-A-Bus and the incredible work that they're doing in our community. Join us next time so we can keep building better lives together.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
The information provided here is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any financial decisions.